Today I'm heading down to Northern Vertex's Moss Gold Mine. I invested in Northern Vertex earlier this year, and I saw a company that had been beaten down by the market and that had had some serious operational issues, but had a plan in place to fix them. Now, this is a heap leach operation. For those of you that are familiar with this type of mining, it is very much a dark art more than a science. It takes time, it takes energy to get these things operating smoothly, operating effectively. And Northern Vertex has brought on a great team of technical experts to sort out the challenges that they've had. And I'm going down to see firsthand what it is exactly that they're doing to solve these problems. Because once this mine gets flowing properly, once the gold really starts coming out and they hit their production targets, I think there's a tremendous amount of value here and a tremendous amount of money to be made for investors that are in this company, including myself. So that's what I'm going down today to check out.
Continue on Interstate 11 south for 11 miles.
We're about 30 minutes into this trip. We've already missed our first turnoff, so we now have to do an 11-mile detour. Where's this fucking ramp? This way. All right. I'm gonna find this moment.
Continue straight.
Back on track. The detour takes us into Oatman, a ghost town with a deep connection to mining in the region. It once had its own stock exchange centered on gold mining claims, but today it survives as a tourist stop on the historic Route 66. We sat down with a local historian, Gunfighter Mike, to learn more. All right, Mike, how's it going today?
Pretty good.
So can you tell me a little bit more about the history of Oatman?
Mining played all the role in Oatman. Oatman wouldn't exist if it wasn't for mining. It was never incorporated in the state of Arizona. It only exists out here in these mountains because of gold. Wyatt Earp used to come here all the time. He was heavy into mining and prospecting and mining. And in 1865, the first mining to be done out here in these mountains was the Moss Mine, which sits about 3 miles off in that direction.
Yeah.
Okay. When they really started mining it, it was done pretty much in secret. Once United States Steel had it, everybody in the country knew there was gold here, and that's when the boom of Oatman actually started in about 1900. And during the World War I era, from 1910 to 1918, there were some estimates, there were as many as 30,000 out here in the mountains around us. But in 1942, when the mining stopped, Roosevelt, or when World War II started, Roosevelt deemed that gold mining wasn't necessary for fighting World War II. He needed the materials to fight the war with rather than gold, so he asked the miners to go mine other things. They did when they left. All the miners thoroughly believed the gold mining was going to come back after World War II because most geologists in the area believed they'd only taken a third of the gold out of these mountains. There's still 2/3 of it still here. Between 1901 and 1942, they estimate they took somewhere around 36 million ounces of gold out of these mountains. Mm-hmm. So if that's only a third of it, there's a lot of gold here. And they never did find in mining terminology what they call the mother lode. So who knows how much gold might really be out here.
What is the role that you sort of fill in Oatman today? You know,
I live here.
But you do a gun show every day, which we're going to see after.
I'm one of the gunfighters. I do gunfights during the day. I play music in the hotel. I would say today mining has very little to do with Oatman. I mean, it is a tourist town. It's one of the few towns that I've been in across even most of the Southwest where it's still the way an old town would have been.
Mike and his band of outlaws put on a show for charity.
Now, what we donate to in particular is St. Jude's Research Hospital. We've also donated
the crowd eats it up.
$2,000 to Wounded Warriors, several $1,000 to some local charities in the area to help people out when they need some help.
Somewhere over there's 2 bags of gold. Whoa. You gonna give me that bag of gold? Cause
shots are fired.
3.
And the bandits take a dirt nap. With that business done, the only thing left to do in Oatman is feed a burro. Doesn't look that appealing. Apparently you're not supposed to feed them carrots anymore because everyone was feeding them carrots and they were just getting fat as fuck. They've had to put them on a diet. Whatever this green shit is. Joe Bartz, which is the president of Northern Vertex's local subsidiary, Golden Vertex. He picks us up in Oatman and gets us the rest of the way to site.
So we're going to have to go in here and get you signed up to do your site-specific, etc.
Yep.
Visitors or persons not employed by the company must check in first at the office and receive a Golden Vertex issued ID badge.
After signing in, Joe takes me for my first real look at the Moss mine.
The Ruth Mill Foundation, you can see it just to the left of the Barren Rock stockpile and to the right of the crusher.
The foundation of that old building.
Yeah,
so that's a Ruth Mill?
The mill.
Okay.
So there's a Ruth vein is parallel to the Moss vein, dips north towards the Moss vein. Narrow, higher grade, and they mined that. That mill was put in 1909, but it's a low grade that was not economic for the old timers. Is economic for us with the big machines and the modern practices, etc.
It's time to meet the guy that put this all together, Northern Vertex CEO Ken Berry. Ken, how does it feel to survey your domain from up here?
Well, it's very proud to see where we've come since 2011. It's been a lot of activity, a lot of capital.
What did this place look like when you actually got here?
Well, when we first arrived, we stood at the far eastern end of the property and looked down the Moss structure, and you can see that vein coming right to the surface. It's almost like a dinosaur's back, a Spinosaurus, coming right to surface. And that's the ore body, the gold and silver. And so when we arrived here in 2011, we looked down and we just envisioned this mining operation.
There was nothing here. There was no starter pit. This was just a hill.
This was basically a hill. It had some limited drilling. Since 2011, we put over 450 drill holes in this property. We've done a test mining facility to put this operation into full mining mode. So yeah, it's come a long ways.
You brought in Mavericks Metals. You brought in Greenstone Capital. You brought in me. You've got investors in Europe. You've got lots of everyday Americans and Canadians and Europeans that are invested. Can you give us an overview of what we're going to be looking at here today?
Just behind us is the mining pit, which has been in operations for just over a year now. And from the pit, the material goes to the crushers. The crushers will then transport through an overland conveyor out onto the heap leach pad. And from the heap leach pad, we apply solution to that pad and it percolates down and it dissolves the gold and silver, which then goes into a Merrill Crowe facility, which is a refinery. And it's a series of filters and pumps. And there the gold and silver is recovered out of solution into a cake-like material. We put it into an oven, we cook it, refine it, and we pour doré bars, which is a mixture of gold and silver, and then it's sold around the world. So, very exciting process.
Oh yeah. Okay. So, that's what it's all about, the whole process. That's what we came here for. It's about 20 kilograms, which is about 100 grand worth of gold. It's good stuff.
Mining goes back a long ways in my family. My grandfather was a coal miner, my father was a placer miner, and when I became of age, around 17, 18, 19, and I pursued a different path. I ended up being a professional hockey player, but I did take my signing bonus that I got from Edmonton Oilers, and the first thing that I bought was gold nuggets from my father. So
from your father. That worked out pretty well for both of you, I guess.
Yeah, it worked out well for him. He'd come home with a coffee can full of gold nuggets, and he needed the cash. I'm not so sure I needed the gold at that time, but as it happened, I spent my signing bonus on gold nuggets. And from there I went on and I had an opportunity to play in 2 Olympics. And at that time, we weren't fortunate to bring home the gold or the silver, but I'm doing all right now with our gold and silver doré bars in front of you. You can see we're going to ship well over 1.2 million this coming week. So we're extremely pleased with the way the mining operations are coming together.
You know, there's very few people that are able to make the transition from a sports career to a executive career in a completely unrelated business. So.
Well, there's so many parallels between sports and business, and building a team, being able to work together with a group of people, strong individuals. And I was fortunate to play with some of the best hockey players in the world, with Wayne Gretzky and Glenn Anderson and Mark Messier. And what we have now is a very strong team. We've got Jim Gubler on the processing side of it, and Kessler Morris on the crushing side of it. So a very successful and group of strong individuals.
So if I'm a shareholder sitting at home, I am a shareholder sitting here, why do I want to own Northern Vertex? What's the upside here?
Well, we like to think that we've put a lot of the growing pains behind us.
Yeah.
We've successfully have a year of mining under our belt. We've been able to grow an inventory up on our heat and leach pad, which for a time period we had challenges trying to recover that metal, that gold and silver. We've been able to solve those issues, and now we expect our regular monthly mining to be successful and continue to grow. Along with that, inventory will start coming off the pad. Yeah. And so this is a perfect opportunity and a real turnaround situation for investors.
Right now, we're at the bottom of the pit. As you can see behind me, they are loading the drill holes. So they're getting prepared for a blast. This is obviously the coolest part of any mining operation. They're gonna blow the shit out of this thing. It's just gonna be rubbled rock behind me. And then the trucks are gonna be able to come in, they're gonna scoop it up and bring it up over to the crusher where it's gonna get broken down. Processing plant makes up an essential component to success. Kessler Morris oversees the plant and is one of the key players that Ken brought in to optimize the operation. He's a crushing expert, and he's focused on eking out every ounce of efficiency that can be found. And he's fine-tuned the ore output well beyond expectations. His attention to detail is impressive, and when he walks you through the plant, it's immediately clear that he's a master of his domain. So this is actually the grizzly. So this is going to separate the larger and smaller material. The smaller material is going to go down in through the crushing units. The large material gets diverted and goes through a jaw crusher. The point of this is to reduce material from the mine to smaller material where it is then transported and placed on the heap leach operation. If heap leach success is a dark art, then Jim Gubler is the alchemist. His job is to recover the gold currently trapped within the leach pad and improve flows and efficiencies moving forward. Now, when I was initially looking to invest in Northern Vertex, something that came to the forefront was the fact that there were millions of dollars of ounces sitting on this pad, locked up there, gold, that hadn't really been realized, that hadn't been percolating through at the rates that we would have expected. Right. I talked to a lot of experts, engineers, metallurgists, who identified that as a very solvable problem, and one that I thought represented a really big opportunity for Northern Vertex, because I think the market and the share price is not reflective of the value here. What are the sort of problems that you saw when you came in that resulted in that gold being locked up?
Well, when I first came in here, the first assessment was, is there some fatal flaw or something showing us that there was something wrong in the feasibility study? And that wasn't the case. After a couple of weeks of review, then it became pretty obvious that wasn't any error in the metallurgical reports. The problem was that the ore wasn't being treated in a leach cycle that was disciplined.
Now, as I understand it, sort of the start of a leach cycle actually sees a lot of gold coming out. It's quite prolific.
Yep.
And then it kind of slows down after that, right? So were they getting greedy kind of and getting the low-hanging fruit out of there and then jumping to the next low-hanging fruit before they properly
I believe so. A lot of the inventory that built in here was not that they didn't stay on the material long enough before they went to the next material. It was more a matter of they didn't apply the right amount of solution tons early in that cycle, and then they jumped off of it to another panel to try and catch that early gold that you're discussing.
Yeah.
And in doing so, they didn't have enough solution to go around to have the high application rates in the early cycle.
What do you mean by inventory, and what is an inventory credit? How does that all relate to this?
Well, inventory is stated as any gold that we know we've placed on the pad based on assays and weights of the material crushed and set on there,
Yep.
against what we've recovered back at the plant over that cycle of that leach.
Right.
So after 180 days, our expectation is we get 80% recovery of the gold that was placed out on there on that panel. What inventory is
So if
anything.
you put 100 ounces on there and you only pull out 60. You know there's 20 that should have came out that is still trapped in that pad there.
With an 80% recovery rate, which was good math quickly without a calculator, yes, you're correct.
My engineering degree is finally
There you go.
useful for something. What does the number say that is actually trapped on the pad right now?
That central third, we took a trenching program that took that top layer that you can see, the top 30 feet, all the way down and across and back. And what we found is that we had about 5,000 ounces in that panel alone.
Right.
Which then brought us that reconciled back to the fact that they only showed 50% recovery on that panel. Well, that's because it was still in there. So it's in there in two forms. One is the soluble gold. It's already dissolved. It's just sitting there for solution to wash through.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it, the other 2,000 ounces of that 5,000, needs about another 60 days with a proper application rate based on column test work we've done to get the rest of that 5,000 out. So those 5,000 ounces should report to the credits of sales in addition to those numbers you mentioned earlier for production. Over the next 120 days or so, we'll completely reclaim all that inventory of that panel. We'll go through the same sampling and identification and inventory assessment on the east panel, and then we'll wrap back to the west here.
This is the moss structure. This is the literally and figuratively the bedrock of the moss mine and what you guys have been mining for the last 2 years. Explain to us the future of this operation and what you'd like to see it become.
Well, Jamie, I think like yourself, many other investors have gotten involved in the Moss Mine and the Northern Vertex because of the potential for extended mine life. We're looking at about 8 or 9 years of mining under the current pit. But what we have here to the east is this moss structure that continues on for at least a mile and beyond. And we've got another 2 miles out to the west. So this is the future of the Moss Mine.
We've spent the last day talking to your team about the steps you're taking to optimize the existing operation and to hit aggressive production targets. But what are the steps you're going to take to expand that resource once you've achieved that milestone?
Well, our focus has been get the mine to steady state.
Yeah.
Once we've achieved that, we're looking to extend the mine life. So we're getting very close. We expect to do 3,000 ounces in the month of July, and we'll continue to see that progress, as well as we'll have ounces coming off the inventory during that next 6 months and beyond. And then we'll start up the exploration in the fall time to add to the ore body.
So you need to get access to the unpatented claims, explore this for additional ounces, and then expand the mine. Is it that simple?
Really, the permitting that's underway right now will give us that ability to extend this mine life well beyond the 8 or 9 years. And this is the reason why Mavericks and other U.S. endowment funds have invested in the Moss Mine. These are areas that we're going to be drilling over the next 6 months and beyond.
Really productive trip down to the mine site. I'm walking away from this with more confidence and more optimism than I've ever had in this project. Feeling really, really happy about buying this stock, and I'm very excited to see what comes out from Ken and his team over the coming months. I think there's huge growth potential in Northern Vertex in the Moss Mine, and I'm definitely going to be holding my shares for the foreseeable future and really looking forward to what those guys put together. Thanks for watching. Poppy, the fortune teller here. Do you have a dollar? Poppy, tell me if Northern Vertex's share price is going to double in the next 6 weeks.
Pappy's got something to tell you, so you best be listening, and listening good. This here's a true saying. The smallest good deed is better than the grandest intention. Take it from Pappy. Intending will get you nowhere fast, but doing something about it, now that's what'll reap you a great big reward. Got some more money for little old Pappy? I got a heap more to tell you.
You feel that you have no control over your destiny. Fortunately, you are destined to be very happy indeed. Sounds like good news to me.